Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Baron of Dice, premium wargaming dice. Over 500 styles, over 4,000 customer reviews. Welcome to the best dice on the planet. Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart, and I've just finished painting my first full 2,000 point army for Warhammer the Old World. At the Adepticon preview, Dwarfen Mountain Holds were announced just a short while ago. Definitely not in March. Aside from that being 11 weeks ago, I think we've got an awful lot to look forward to. I'm really excited about reading the Arcane Journal and getting my hands on this king, which is very much needed for the army I'm just about to show you. Now, my plan since the announcement of Dwarfen Mountain Holds was to produce lots of content, lots of videos, tutorials building up to the release. I wasn't sure that I'd get lots done before the release. I thought maybe I'd get half of my army painted, but as we're 11 weeks on now, I've managed to get my whole 2,000 point first army list done, aside from that King on Shield Bearers, which I need to get my hands on. Along the way, I've done a number of painting tutorials covering the original old, slightly derpy, but I love them, 6th edition plastics, which I've painted as rangers in my army. I've covered the newer 8th edition kits, which are also available in Age of Sigmar, and I've painted mine as hammerers and longbeards, and there's a video for that as well. I've also done a tutorial for gyrocopters. I've covered Gotrek and Felix with a slightly linked dwarf theme there as well. Along the way, I've even made a few shorts showing off my organ gun, which was pretty old, and my even older Goblobber miniature as well, which is so cool, and the only remaining item from my 7th/8th edition army before I stopped playing fantasy for a few years. I even covered my Anvil of Doom and how I'd magnetized the miniatures, and I'll show you that a little bit later in this video as well. And then just the other week, I painted the new 500th edition White Dwarf miniature, which is absolutely fantastic. Again, I've magnetized him so he can go on his round base, but primarily he's going to be using a square base, and for now he's probably going to be standing in as my king while I wait for that new miniature to arrive. So let me indulge myself, present my army to you. I'm even going to show you my army list off. I thought it'd be fun for people in the comments to tell me how wrong it is, or their experience of playing against dwarves or with dwarves up to now. I'm not a very competitive player, but I've tried to build a list that maybe can compete on the table. We will see. Really interested in your thoughts in that. And at the end of the video, I'm going to talk a little bit, or speculate a little bit, about when these dwarves might arrive, in the vain hope that by talking about it this weekend, and as soon as I put this video out, they'll be announced the very next day, and the comments will be full of people saying, what you want about, they've just gone up for pre-order. And there is the finished 2,000 points. Even without the king, I've got the white dwarf miniature that I can use as a thane, and a change of some magic items can easily make 2,000 points. And again, I will probably use him just on a 50ml base as a bit of a proxy king on shield bearers until that miniature arrives. I don't want to spend loads of time on the army list, and not everyone will find that interesting, especially in a video, though some people will. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm not a super competitive player, and with my family life as it is at the moment, it's definitely hard for me to get away to lots of events and things at the weekend. So I will try to get to a couple, whether it's with this army or not, I'm not sure, but would love to have people's comments to let me know what they think of the listings. They might change, etc, etc, and we'll see where we go from there. But briefly, we have a king on shield bearers, which I may have mentioned already at the top of the video, who has 2 runes of shielding and a rune of might. We have a thane BSB with a master rune of Grungy, and we have an Anvil of Doom, and I've magnetized that, and I'll show you that a little bit later as well. The Anvil of Doom is as it is, no extras on there. The points were quite tight. And for core, we have 17 long beards. Because we have a king, we can take them in core, and the king goes in there. And they have a master rune of hesitation on the standard. And then to make up the core, 12 rangers. As it stands, there is a standard bearer and a musician, so full commands in there. It wasn't originally how I was going to run them. I was deploying them just as skirmishes in the games I've used them so far, but this gives them a little bit of flex. But also because I needed to max out the 500 points minimum of core, which I'm only just doing with this list. We go on to special. There is a grudge thrower as it is, and then I have 2 gyrocopters, and they just have steam guns. That's all I had the points for in the end, and they've done quite well so far in the couple of games that I have played, and I think they're very important with such slow moving troops. We also have 17 hammerers, and in that unit goes the BSB, and I should have mentioned that the main units have drilled, which is all important at the moment in time. Then we move on to a rare, and I have 2 units of 5 iron drakes, both with the lovely troll hammer torpedo. And then to finish off, an organ gun as well. I really like the miniature, and it gives me a little bit of ranged, which I'm a little bit short on. Artillery doesn't seem quite as good in this edition, so there's no cannons and things at the moment. Obviously, I have the old Goblubber, the Grudge Bearer. I do have those ranges, but it'll depend on the game situation and whether they're there to be deployed on a hill somewhere to fire. More likely they'll be up the table and getting into people's faces relatively quickly. So I'm really happy with the way that the armies come out visually. It looks pretty cool in my mind. It's a decent enough painting standard. It's tabletop towards the higher end. Definitely not sort of showcase standard, and I doubt it'll be winning any awards. But the most important thing is that I'm really, really happy with it. If you'd like to know a little bit more about how I painted it, the colours I used, please do check out those tutorials that I mentioned in the video. I'll place a link somewhere for that, but it's very, very easy to find. It will be in the same playlist as this video on the channel. The Rangers were the first unit I painted, and after I painted them I have added a standard bearer and a 12th member, which is actually a donkey, a really old Citadel miniature. The gyrocopters were some of the most fun things I've painted, and the first time I painted these plastic versions, I used to own the metal versions before. I simplified them a little bit on the rotor blades, left some of it off, definitely some of the construction. I wanted them to look a little bit more basic, and I'm pretty pleased with the way these came out in the end. The Longbeards and the Hammerers form part of one big painting tutorial, and there are subtle differences in the armour. Again, I'll refer you to those tutorials if you're interested, but I like the way they came out. So it's using the newer plastics, which again I've not used before. I'm a bit of a fan of the old metals, but by leaving the shoulder pads off them, I felt that it made them look a little bit less sort of modern 8th edition-ish or AOS-ish, and I quite like them. The Longbeards, they're showing their full power, their long white beards. And of course, my 2 units of 5 Iron Drakes. I didn't own these first time round when I played Dwarves in 8th edition. I just didn't really like the models at the time. I've warmed to them, definitely. I think they probably are quite important in the modern game as well. And I had good fun painting them. With the organ gun, this is the middle of the sculpt. So there was an older metal one and of course the newer plastic one. I'd owned both other sculpts before in my previous armies, and this is the one I hadn't. So when I got the chance to pick it up on eBay, I did, and I think it's probably my favourite, somewhere in between the 2 styles. I'm very fond of it. The very classic Goblubber, and I bought this on eBay back in 7th edition, and it was expensive back then. Came with the box and all of the kit, including the miniatures that are missing now. There is a spit and a chef and another crew member as well, which I'm missing. So if anyone has them and willing to part with them, let me know, because I've lost them. But I stripped this. It was the only thing I had left from my old 7th and 8th edition army. I stripped them and repainted them, and I just love this miniature. It's probably my favourite in the army. This, like much of this army, was an eBay find. I believe this was released in metal and then again in finecast. This is a finecast version. It wasn't too bad, and I had quite a lot of fun painting, and it means my BSB is ready to go. Now on to my Anvil of Doom, and this is sacrilege, I know, but I'm not a huge fan of the proper miniature or the last full metal miniature. It's okay, I just wanted something different in my army for one of the most important character pieces. I was able to find just the base and the anvil on eBay, which is perfect. Meant I didn't have to scratch build one or try and 3D print one or do something else. I wanted my army fully Warhammer World legal for when I take my son up there to play games. So what I did was I added some magnets, and then I used some of the newer plastics. Not only can I take them off as wounds, 2 of them then become rune priests, rune lords, etc. So I'm using the most modern rune lord miniature, and I think they look pretty cool. One of the crew will become a separate rune priest if I ever wanted to run 2 in a game and not on the anvil. So it just gives me lots of future sort of armyless build options really, and I'm pretty pleased again with the way they came out. Now the metal base for the anvil is 62mm, so it does fit in really nicely on a 60mm round, which is what I've done. It doesn't show up very well in these blackened pictures here because the software I use for removing background removes that as well. But again, having these little magnetized bases so I can use them in different units and as different things really adds to that flexibility, and it was really good fun painting them as well. And there, of course, is my Lord on shield bearers leading the army. No, wait. And I will wait. I'm happy to wait. I'm sure it'll be absolutely fantastic when this miniature does land. But I needed something to lead my army in the meantime, and the 500th magazine edition of White Dwarf was the perfect option. So I used some magnets here so that I could base him on the AOS round base, more for display, but I might use him in a round base game at some point. But it all magnetizes apart, and I can magnetize him onto a different base with the big stone glued to his feet. So if I use him as a Thane or something, he can be on an Oath Stone. But I think what I might also do in the short term is just stick that on the middle of that 50mm square so I can use him as a proxy little king with shield bearers. And there's the full army with its back of White Dwarf-esque style shots. And again, I'm really happy with it. I wished I could have made this video with that new king on shield bearers as part of that picture, but it means I'll have to come back when the book is out and the miniature's out, and I've done a painting tutorial for that new king and do some more pictures and have some fun there. So as I mentioned at the top of the video, I'm a little bit surprised actually the dwarves aren't out by now. And that's not a complaint. It's definitely not a dig at any of the creatives or the team working on the old world. I know that's got little or nothing to do with them at all, but it feels a little bit odd. I know it was 8 weeks from the announcement of Orcs and Goblins, which was the launch day of the game and the launch day of Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings, from launch to pre-order, and we've gone past that quite a way. And because we're edging towards a Summer of Age of Sigmar 4th edition, which looks pretty cool by the way, but because we're heading towards that, I think a few of us are starting a little bit twitchy that because of some delays, and there are rumours of delays, and we know that Games Workshop have been struggling a little bit with production and getting things in stock and keeping things in stock. I'm a little bit concerned that doors maybe have been delayed and might even find themselves the other side of that launch, which could be a really big delay. I'm still hopeful that we will see them this month, so in June 2024, and I'm really hopeful that there's lots of comments because they've launched the day after I've released this video, or 2 days after I've released this video, depending on when I get it out. So let's fingers crossed for that. But if not, why? Maybe, I don't know. Aside from the delays that I mentioned, the problems keeping stuff in stock, that's the only thing I can really see there being a reason why we've not had them yet, alongside making sure that it doesn't overlap at all with the Age of Sigmar launch. Maybe by making the gap between announcement and launch a little bit longer could mean we could see them soon, and then it gives another 12 weeks or so before the next faction, because no doubt if they follow the pattern, they'll not only be launching dwarves but announcing the next one, and they also don't want that next announcement to clash with anything to do with Age of Sigmar 4. Not that we know what the next faction is, but who knows? Let me know what you think. Let me know what your predictions are in the comments. Yeah, and of course, if they've just come out, egg on my face. But anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. Hope you like the army. Get involved in all the comments below. There's loads of painting tutorials on the channel, not just for those dwarves. So if you want to support the channel, go and watch those. Give us a subscription, give us a like, comment below and all that stuff. I do have a Discord as well, which is a lovely friendly place to chat about wargaming, all different game systems. And I also have a Patreon. Links of all of those are in the video description. But I'm going to let you go now. So thank you very much for watching. Take care. And I'm going to do some research into my next army.